My dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat is a Canadian initiative with a unique impact. There are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers Digital Cable, for those of you who have the Rogers Digital box. And of course, we also live stream our chit chat here. So do take the opportunity to share a page. We ask you to stay with us if you would like to learn a thing or two. However, if you're looking for an opportunity to vent out negativity, this is not for you. Tonight, we thought it is important, by the way, to pause a little bit to discuss the importance of Holi because we all celebrate in different ways. I've celebrated in different ways myself. So tonight, I've invited Pandit Dave Ramrattan to join us. By the way, I've made an open invitation to have people to join us so that they can share, so that we can learn and all of that. And he took up the offer, and for that I'm grateful. So Dave, Pandit Dave, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Namaskar. Good evening. I'm doing well, thank you. And it's an honor, it's a privilege for you to have me and to be on your program this evening.
All right. Well, we are very glad to have you here. I can tell you that. But because we are having you on here for the first time, our normal procedure is to let our guests introduce themselves. We find that it works best when they introduce themselves because they know themselves better than I do. So take your time, introduce yourself to us. Let us know a little bit more. We'll talk a little bit about some of the initiative that you're involved in and so on. And then we are going to get right into what's important, actually, and holy that is. So take it away, introduce yourself to us, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So once again, Jai Maharaji Ki, Jai Sri Ram. My dear friends, my name is Dev Chandra Ramrattan, Pandit Dev, and originally I was born and bred in Soesdijk in Guyana. So my parents, mother and father, Shiv and Kunti Ramrattan, and I'm the second of three siblings, two boys and one girl. And in this field, I feel very blessed to be here to join with all of you. As I introduce myself as a very humble servant of our religion, of our society, whereby in a very subtle way, in whatever way that I can reach out to assist, to help. That's what I do. And looking at it from a religious perspective, as a pandit, I've been doing this for approximately 12 years in this field of panditai by practicing the religion throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. And on the professional side, I was also principal of a high school and a head of a science department, majoring in the field of biology and human and social. So those are basically uh, the avenues that I would have covered as an individual, and I'm so blessed to be a parcel of
All right. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I can't wait to hear from you when it comes to this holy piece, because different people celebrate in different ways. And to those of you who are watching and listening, and for those of you who will be watching and listening at some point, we are not here to judge anybody at all. We're here to educate ourselves and so on. And so that's the whole purpose of this, because somebody has to pause to kind of really put some sense when it comes to these important pieces, because sometimes we do things and we're not necessarily do it in the right way, and we're not even realizing it. So we're not blaming anybody here. We all have been there, done that. But before we get into to that aspect of it, I know you're involved with quite a few different organizations and so on. Share with us a little bit on that, and also tell us why you've decided to engage yourself with these organizations and the purpose
it.
it serves in society.
Definitely. So I am a humble servant of Sadhguru Sarv Sri Ashutoshi Maharaj, and he is a founder member and head of the Divya Jyoti Jagrati Sansthan organization, and that translates as Divine Light Awakening Mission. And that mission is a social, spiritual, and non-profitable organization where in it itself is where it teaches man to become humane by being blessed with the divine knowledge of Brahmgyan or divine light. And that is the opening of the third eye, whereby man can move through the different stages of from being an animal man to man, and then to a divine man. By connecting at all times through that divine eye, through that through the knowledge of oneself, to the Supreme Lord at all times.
Wow.
So that organization, it is basically to help man, no matter what religion you may be. It is not a religious organization, but it is more of a spiritual organization.
Excellent. And so, you know, and I know that this spiritual conversation and so on is not a sexy one, but I'm so glad that, we have people like yourself because we need people to kind of really kind of, you know, um, educate us and so on. We need people to kind of, really put a hold on things and educate people because at the end of the day, people need that knowledge. People can never go wrong with knowledge. So,
Definitely.
any other pieces you would like to share when it comes to the or other organization you're involved with, or you want us to get right into the holy piece? Because I'm interested, very much interested to hear about the holy piece.
so, so I can share a little more on that from the same organization that I'm part of with the fundamental tool of Brahmgyan. That's the divine knowledge.
Hmm.
And Brahmgyan in itself is considered the eternal science of self-realization. And I know tonight being the topic of holy, with that we're going to be discussing a bit on. But when we talk about self-realization, and I quote Swami Vivekananda, he says that religion is God's realization. And through this organization, it's for man to realize the God within themselves and always be connected. And that is through the divine science of Brahmgyan, which is the divine knowledge.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And for those of you who probably tune in here just now, not necessarily from the beginning, do know that we are joined by Pandit Dev Ramrattan. We've decided to have this important chit chat when it comes to Holi because, in life, sometimes we do things and we're not even knowing or understanding. We're not here to judge anybody or anything of that kind. But I think it is important for us to shed some light when it comes to important occasion as such, because I've seen today different people are celebrated in different ways, and I see that people are having fun. And for me, there's nothing wrong in having fun, but we cannot overdo it, right? Because these are important, significant pieces. So I, I'm gonna leave it open to you. So please explain to us, share with us the significance of Holi. What it means, how we, as humans or as Hindus or just as people, celebrate. How is it that we should mark this occasion? So just take it away and break it down to us.
Sure. So again, as you would have said that you would have seen many persons celebrating Holi in different ways, using different avenues to celebrate it. So I'll go by expounding a bit, whereby I'll break up that word holy, so that
Absolutely,
from
please
that,
do. Yeah, you take your time and do it. Yeah, you go ahead.
so, so from that, people will understand better as to what this occasion literally symbolizes and what it actually means to us as individuals. So the word holy is spelled Holi, and ho means to become, li means to merge in. I repeat, ho means to become, li means to merge in. And when we combine those two syllables together, it means holy means when one becomes merged in the Lord. When one becomes merged in the Lord. So that when you become merged in the Lord, then the festivities of the colors will reign, then the triumph of good over evil will also reign, because many of times we consider the evil to be what are external, but the evil literally are what we have within our own being. And when we celebrate Holi and the festivities of all those colors and the good over evil occurs, is when we merge into the Lord directly. So many legends within our scriptures has depicted such. And one of the most common ones that many, probably everyone knew of, is the one of Prahalad. And I'm going to go a bit on that entire legend, whereby people will be able to understand that more on a spiritual perspective, how that actually symbolizes what happens in our life every day. So Prahalad was a very, very devoted son. He was a devoted personality to God. And his father was the one who was testing his devotion. So by testing his devotion, the father, being so egoistic, felt that, you know what, he was God. And because the son deferred and said, no, you are not God, he decided to destroy that son. He tried many ways and means. Eventually, he had a sister by the name of Holika. And Holika was blessed by Lord Brahma. Now, because she was blessed, there was a shawl that could not have been burnt. So she said to her brother that she's going to sit in the fire, place Prahalad on her lap, and she guaranteed that he's going to be burnt. Lo and behold, and this is something that I want our people to always understand. While Prahalad was sitting on the lap of Holika, he was always in contemplation on the Lord. He was in meditation. He had a guru by the name of Narad Muni. And while sitting on the lap of Holika, he continued to contemplate on the Lord. He continued to meditate. And eventually, when the fire subsided, Prahalad was the one who walked safely out of it, while his aunt was burnt. Holika today, my friends, represents our ego. Our ego. And always remember that if we have ego, then God will not be present. Very simple terms. God will not be present. Now, looking at all of these, I know for a fact that many times, probably, because this information probably was not disseminated to everyone. Prahalad's father name was Hiranyakashipu. Now, at the beginning of time, and let's look back at the beginning of time, Lord Vishnu, whose abode was Vaikuntha, the heavenly region, had two gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers were Jaya and Vijaya. One day, four rishis visited Vaikuntha. Jaya and Vijaya decided that they were not going to allow the four rishis to meet Lord Vishnu. And the four rishis pronounced a curse upon them, that they will always be thirsty for God. There and there, Lord Vishnu came out and he asked of the four rishis to be very lenient on Jaya and Vijaya, his gatekeepers. Those four gatekeepers were Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar. So the four rishis gave them a choice. Either you're going to spend 10 lives and thirst for the Lord, or you're going to spend 3 life as demons. The first life captivity is when both of them, Jaya and Vijaya, came as two brothers, Hiranyayaksha and Hiranyakashipu. That's in Satyug age. And Hiranyaksha, Lord Vishnu took the form of a Varaha, a boar, and he destroyed him. And Hiranyakashipu was destroyed when the Lord took the form as Narasimha. That's the first demonic life that he lived. Second demonic life was in Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, when Jaya and Vijaya came as Ravana and Kumbhakaran, and they were both destroyed by Lord Rama. In Dwapar Yuga, they came as Shishupal and Dantruvakra, and they were destroyed by Lord Sri Krishna. In this Kali Yuga age, they represent our vices, ego, pride, jealousy, anger, attachment, all of these things. And that can only be destroyed when we celebrate Holi by merging in the Lord. And when we merge in the Lord, then we remove all of it, for God will alleviate all and destroy the vices from our life. So that is the main essence or the spiritual part of celebrating Holi. Yes, we all celebrate in different ways. It's a joyous occasion. But if we can celebrate such by being connected with the Lord and celebrating its true sense, then definitely we will be able to be one with the Lord at all times.
All right. Excellent. So thank you for that, aspect of it. I do appreciate that. I want to remind people that for those of you who may have just tuned in, you're listening and watching Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. We're discussing an important topic, not a sexy one, but a very important one. I appreciate you joining us because I can assure you by the end of it here, you will pick up one or two things, and that's the key here. And so we appreciate you joining us here, by the way. Obviously, I mean, me growing up in Guyana, I've celebrated, this holy celebration in a variety of different ways. I mean, like the holy cutting and so on. I mean, apart from the Mandir piece where we will actually do all important pieces, from days before and all of that. We also, because when we were young, we used to kind of gather branches and so on, and we just kind of do our own thing. And I think people are still continuing that tradition and they're doing it. I've seen that. And I'm not saying it's anything wrong because for me, anything we can do to bring people together as long as we're not harming anybody is a good thing. But I think it's nice to kind of have these kinds of open conversations so that people can have an understanding and know the difference of it, right? Because I even see people from different culture and so on being part of it. And first for me being as open as I am, I actually love that part of it where if we can have people of different kind. So tell me about your thought though of and we're not condemning anybody here. Tell me your thought based on what we talked about earlier. Like, I mean, I even see people drinking and playing holy song and so on. And they're not behaving bad. It's when I look at it, it looks like they're having fun. Holy, spiritual kind of song, a whole different meaning. Their mentality is a whole different side. Comment on that without us, offending anybody because that's not the intention of the show.
So Holi in itself, yes, it has over the years it has become a pinnacle of a social event,
Yeah.
right? Whereby it brings together so many people. And with your program being a diversity program, one of it and socially, Holi in itself, and if I'm going to, divulge on the social aspect of it, is that it depicts social quality and cultural inclusiveness. Holi in itself, when people hear or they know that, what we're fastly approaching this day, no matter the race, no matter the religion, no matter even the status in our society, that day is when everybody comes together as one to enjoy. Whether they know what the meaning of the release of the occasion is or not, but the mere fact is that they want to have this camaraderie with each other. And in a very simple synopsis, on that day, no matter what your color may be, everybody wears white, right? And white represents that purity. But then when they wear that white, then you see all the colors of the powder that is smeared on that white. Now, those colors in itself represent unity and diversity. And that is what Holi does. Unity and diversity. But when that happens, the festivities of love, of friendship, loss of enmity, all of these things are eradicated. On that day, even if you haven't talked to somebody for many, many years, you see that day they're gonna come and they're gonna pour some water on you, they're gonna smear you with some powder and just let go of what would have transpired in the past. So from a social perspective, Holi is one holiday or occasion that brings everyone together, no matter who you may.
No, and it makes total sense for sure. And I love that aspect of it as well too, especially with the coloring piece and so on. I like that whole aspect of it. And you brought up another interesting piece. Things somewhat change over time, and things of that kind. But it's nice to kind of understand how it started and the and the significance of it. I think we cannot lose that piece. It's nice to have that little extra knowledge of it, or that reminder for many people. By the way, no people know these things, of course, but for the most part is usually for the reminder, because as human beings, we live in a fast-paced world, and sometimes important things seems to slip through the cracks. So how is it that you, Pandit Dev, celebrate? What do you normally do when it comes to a day like today? How did you spend your day so far? Is what I meant. I know I know we are in a pandemic here, but what have you done when it comes to the Holi?
So over the years, for this year it has been very quiet, just
Yeah.
being at home with my wife and kid.
Mhm.
But that's basically it. And but over the years, one of our custom of celebrating this day, because growing up I always attended the suicide Sunday, is that in the morning you play in your community, and by you mix with each and every one. Then in the afternoon, then you go to the temple. You had a nice, you have a nice program, stage program. Everybody's gonna sing. You're gonna have some dances and all these things. Now, over the years, one of the things that we would have always done in Suicide is that yes, the national stadium would have, for the past couple of years, always have the big shows.
Mhm.
But since we were kids growing up in Suicide Mandir, everybody from Suicide to Mary, that entire area, always come out to Suicide Mandir on Baghdad. So we try to maintain that, even though the stadium always have these shows and all these things. We still try to maintain that in the community because for us it brings the community together. And you want to meet. Yes, everybody meets at the national stadium and they have to do what have you.
Mhm.
But then if everybody does that, then literally you're moving, you know, everyone away from the community. And you want once you're there in your community, you can strengthen the ties with it. Because from the time you start to disperse, literally you're within your own community, and then there's going to be no diversity because everybody's going to go all over the place. So we try to maintain that every year.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, like as I was mentioning, I really love that aspect of it as well too. Um, I think it's okay to to kind of celebrate in a way that works for people, but as long as people don't overdo it, I guess that's what I meant when I
Yes,
say
yes.
people celebrate things in different way. Because I mean, especially now, people are finding all kinds of ways to be creative, to kind of really deal with different situation and so on. So for some people, it's probably an escape just to kind of gather, maybe doing the Hawker thing, not in the way of card, the way like it's supposed to be done, so to speak, but just on the day, I guess, the neighborhood comes together, do that, and we know it doesn't have any significant meaning in, spiritually. We get that part of it, but on the other part that you mentioned there, it's still somewhat bringing people together. It's still marking the celebration of the occasion and things like that kind. And at the end of the day, too, I mean, not to put anybody down, people are doing things based on the knowledge they have as well, too, right? And so we have to be mindful of all of that. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we're having this chit chat here, by the way. So that way we are
So,
educating people, we're reminding ourselves of things too, right?
so true, because at the end of it, it's like it becomes traditional. What you would have
Yes,
learned, what from generations to generation, and it
absolutely.
passes on and on.
Yes, absolutely. It becomes a tradition for sure. You hit it on the nail there, and it's not necessarily a bad tradition too in that sense, right? For me, anything that doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't harm anybody, it's okay because people can be out there doing different things, and so what is wrong if they can come together to kind of have a little bit of fun, so kind of thing. But it's important to kind of nail this. I mean, you have given us actually here. I want to be mindful that you have a family and so on. You've given us a good, some good insight. I'm more knowledgeable now, prior to me started. You might not know this though, by the way, but I'm going to share a secret with you. I was an assistant pundit when I was growing up way back in Guyana when I was a teenager. Um, and I enjoy being part of, all of these pieces. I did puja for people in the villages and things of that kind. But as I get older and more mature, I realize that's not a path I want to take, kind of thing. And so I respect people who are doing it. I'm very spiritual person. That doesn't mean that, right? I'm a vegetarian and things of that kind. I wasn't. I have eaten meat and stuff in the past, and things of that kind. But though I'm not, doing the pandadai thing, I feel as if I'm connecting to God even more now for me, kind of thing. But I'm so glad that we have people like yourself who are actually, you know, um, you know, you know, passing on the knowledge and so on, because somebody has to keep that tradition, that alive and kind of thing. So I think it's nice because you look young to me too. And I think that it is important for young people, and that's a whole different topic that we should be talking about. I can't remember the date, if it's the 6th of April. We are going to have a panel where we're going to discuss. Maybe I will invite you for that one, and if you can join us too. For some reason, by the way, people are not there's a need for more people to attend mandirs and things of that kind. It is always empty. Like I attended a very small mandir, a beautiful mandir, in Guyana. And when you go there, the expectation is that that place will be, is going to be full with people because it's a big village. And when you go, there's like a handful of people here and there and things of that kind. And I know and understand how difficult it is to run a mandir. It doesn't matter where that mandir is and so on, right? And so we are going to try to have that open conversations to try to understand why many people are not going to these religious places anymore. And I have a good sense as to why people are not interested too. And nobody is to really be blamed. We live in a sinful world now. This is a time of Kali Yoga here, right? Kind of thing. Because, for example, let me share this quickly with you. I was speaking with somebody, and the fella said to me he's not going to the mandirs because he's afraid that people will judge him, right? And then when I understand his story, I'm a social worker with profession, and when he shared some stories with me, and then when he shared with me, and I realized that he doesn't have a father figure and things of that kind, so he doesn't have anybody to guide him along and things of that kind. And the reality is, we as human beings, we judge people, and we do it so well. So there are very different reasons. But we're going to leave that for another chit chat, because we are going to talk about that, because it's an area where we have to try to see what's happening, what's going on. You don't have to comment on that. I'm going to ask you on that or anything. Well, you can if you want to, but we have another stuff coming on. So what else would you like to say? This is a freestyle chit chat here, obviously. What is it that you would like to say more of seeing that you're already here? Whether that
So,
be
so I'm going to comment a bit on the aspect of
absolutely. Oh,
technology.
please, you go ahead while you're at it.
Because, you know, and I'm going to make comparison to, let's say, 20 years ago to today.
Mhm.
20 years ago, everybody used to go to man, whether the entire household or the entire community, the now everybody used to go. Now, and I can talk from experience here too,
Mhm.
is that as a kid growing up, you were always ruled with an iron fist.
Mhm.
You know, if your parents said that you have to go to the Monday, you had to go. You didn't have a choice, right? No matter what you had to do,
Mhm.
whether homework assignment, no matter what school you were going to,
Mhm.
Sunday morning you have to go to Monday. Today, if we fast forward to what's happening today, and this is another, and these are a lot of excuses that's happening.
Mhm.
If you ask parents why is it, your kids are not coming to Monday, is that they had so many lessons, so many work and all these things.
Mhm.
And it kind of surprises us because I was a principal of a high school. I
Mhm.
taught CXC classes for 10 consecutive years, right?
Mhm.
We did not get to that stage overnight. We
Mhm.
had to study, we
Of
had to go to
course.
school,
Absolutely.
right? Now today, in today's society, you cannot send the kids. And it's an appeal I make to parents here now too. You cannot send the kids and expect them to go. You need to go with them.
Mhm.
And if you take initiative and you go with your kids, with your children to the temple, they themselves now will realize that you know what, you don't have a choice. Mommy and daddy is going to the mandir, to the churches, to the mosques, whatever it is, they have to go. Now you need to start doing that while they're at a young age. So you can start instilling that value and etiquette.
Mhm.
You cannot wait until they become teenagers and get older.
Mhm.
And being, in this profession for so long, one of the things that I would have learned over time is that you need to befriend people to get them to learn. You cannot rule with an iron fist. If you can befriend all of these, you can
Absolutely.
get them to come, no matter what their age may be.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, you brought up a good point, and and you have that experience where, going to the mandir, that's one, but also as a principal, you've seen it from that aspect as well too, in terms of the learning aspect of, as well too. And so, but there's definitely a need for for improvement in that area, because I like to always focus on the younger people, because at some point we have to replace people, right? And then I find that in these days and time, there's a need. Everybody can play a role, some sort of role. Even at the mandir, like the younger folks, can involve with the technological piece, whether that be putting up, a religious program or program that works for them, something along that, like um, something. There's a need for that, but I think if the mandir also, you brought a good point, but on the other hand too, I think if organizations and so on are more open to make sure that everybody's playing a role, and it's not like you against us kind of thing, I think that can help too, because we live in a material world here, and everybody love that attachment piece. Everybody love to have that little control piece too, right? And things of that kind. And so I think if we are conscious of that as well too, that can help too. Because for example, if I have an organization, or if somebody come to my home, it is my responsibility to make sure that that person feels as comfortable as possible, so that he and she wants to come back, right? So it should not. And so, right, and because that's the purpose, right? You want people to come, and
Yes.
so it's not like us against them. So okay, we are organizing this puja today, we're going to invite the general public, you give them some prasad and you let them go. Like you don't, I'm just thinking, because for me, I'm just speaking my experience too. Like when I've seen it on both sides, if I'm going somewhere, I want to be acknowledged. I don't want to feel, I don't want to feel as if like I'm outcast or I outsider as well too, kind of thing, right? And so I can imagine. And then also I find out recently too that some people have anxiety too to be among people too. So there's a variety of different reasons why people don't even go, right?
Yeah,
That,
yeah, but the touching on that, right? It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
I would have made the suggestion, and I would tell them that that I was always at is that as a pandit of the temple, you are already a leader. Right? And this is a suggestion, this is a principle that I stuck by over the
Mhm.
years. As a pandit, you're already a leader. And being a leader, I sat on the fence. If I have to use layman terms, I sat on the fence. I was never part of the executive, nor part of the congregation. Reason being is that if I'm going to sit whether with the congregation or executive, there will be a conflict of interest because everybody looks to me as a leader. Now, if there's a conflict between the congregation and the executive of the temple, then I'm going to put myself in the middle and I'm going to find a solution to whatever is happening. And I think if all of us can, probably adopt such systems, I think, we can encourage more people to come because people look at mandates, look at these religious places to find solace, to find some peace. And if you're going to come there and you realize that, hey, there's so much bickering going on, no, no, no.
Exactly. So I think that's what and and people are basing things on their experience too, right? And some people have had bad experiences. I remember when even me when I was a teenager, when I started the pandadai, and because I'm a very passionate person, I'm very motivated, and I never allow anybody to dim my light. I've always been that way. If I have a passion for something, I will do whatever it takes to get done because I can see with a third eye. But when I started out this pandit as a teenager, there were a lot of grown-up people they did everything they could to stop me, because they kind of hold me back, like they don't want me to kind of think. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, it should be the other way around, right? That we have somebody coming up here. So maybe what can we do to allow this person to grow and blossom? But for me, it was like an actual challenge to kind of to kind of thing. So and that this is in Mandir I'm talking about. But I mean, we are moral, mature people. We learn from it, and that's one of the reasons we are having this open conversation here too, because um, we want people to know that you know there's, I mean, I've never met a perfect organization, man. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you share your experience.
you will always find a lot of these things within all organizations. But then at the end of the day, being the mature ones, and that is why to me today, young people need to be the driving force. The reason being is that our people today are more educated and more knowledgeable than 50, 20, 25 years back. You could have read anything and people are going to take it and they're going to run with it. Today, a lot of questions are being asked. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? What is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of that? Now, if you don't educate yourself, then literally you're going to be losing these people because our young people today, let's say you're in a mandir and you read something and you don't explain it to them, they'd be like, come on, I'm hearing this thing every day, but I don't even know what it is. So does it make sense for me to come?
True, true.
So so you need to start educating yourself on all these aspects. And that is why I say, you know, yes, there's a huge gap between the older ones and the younger ones. There's a huge gap.
Mhm.
And back home, I tried my best to see if I can bridge that gap. No matter how old you be or how young you be, you can all learn from each other.
Oh, for sure. The learning never stopped. That's for sure. So I think people have to get used to that aspect of it.
So,
Because
so if we can learn from each other, then definitely we can encourage our people to come back in their numbers.
so I have a question for you. I mean, as you know, we are in this pandemic, and people are still finding ways to connect spiritually. My question to you is, and there's no right and wrong answer, by the way. It just popped into my head. My question to you: do you think it is important for us to assess all the religious organization to see if there's a need for it to continue on the way it has been, you know um, or do you think it's okay just to continue doing what they have been doing? I know it's
Can
a
I
tough
share?
question, but go
Okay,
ahead.
so can I share my experience on this?
Absolutely, yes, you go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So, and this is from my experience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Since the pandemic has started, is that from a religious perspective, it is very, very hard to practice the religion for people.
Mhm.
or literally going to
Of
people
course.
places and all those things.
Absolutely.
That's one. Two, mentally, for the past year and over,
Mhm.
people are mentally drained and disturbed.
Mhm.
On top of that, materially, a lot of people are suffering as well.
Absolutely.
My take on this, and it's something that I have done over the past year, is that this is the time of need where, as religious leaders, you need to put on your leadership cap to reach out to the people. This is where you need to show that, you know what, even though this is what's going on, I am there to support you. They may not want support financially or materially, but a word, a kind word of advice, they're going to take that and that's going to make them confident. So people and our leaders today need to bridge that gap. Okay, it's a pandemic. How can I still serve my people? Yeah, you're not going to take all the time from your family or from your, whatever you have to do to spend it with everybody. But that is something that I would have adopted for the past year. I've spent more time using technology to reach to the people, giving them words of advices, and not only Guyana, but throughout advices. Try to help them mentally because it is very, very strenuous right now. On top of that, another example I'm going to be giving here. I was supposed to read a yajna in a week in April last year. The pandemic started. I told the sponsors, I said, you know what? A yajna can always be read.
Mhm.
Let us take that money and we turned it over into food hampers. We took all the money and we had all the sponsors that comes in and we went and we prepared food hampers and we shared in a lot of rural areas on the Sultan Highway and the
Mhm.
nearby villages and all of these things. So people at this time as leaders, you need to put on your cap and say, you know what? I'm there to give you that support because, and why I'm saying this, because at the end of this pandemic, if we don't do this, we're gonna lose everybody.
Yeah. So, if, and that's one of the reasons I do enjoy this chit chat here. Um, w- you've brought up such of an important piece here just now. You talk about importance of, you basically check in with people to see how they're doing, right? Because you have a responsibility as a leader, pundit, because you used to be with people, you used to run an organization, mandir, whatever that is, right? And the pandemic obviously has changed things. It is extremely difficult on people mentally. And so, that's one of the reasons we always encourage people who are watching, listening, to do like the check-in, to check in, with about 5 people, people that they know, and do it on an ongoing basis. Because what's going to happen if they don't hear from you, they themselves will check in back. Because let's say you promise to call me on Fridays at 6 o'clock, and you've been calling for a few weeks. If I don't hear from you on one Friday at 6 o'clock, I will be calling you because I really want to know
Yeah,
what's going on with you,
definitely.
right? So it works really well, and that's one of the most important thing we can do right now. And as you mentioned, it doesn't always have to be financially, and stuff like that. Because when you call somebody and you ask them how they're doing, how that person feels, like really, really good. They feel as if, like, well, at least somebody care for them, right? And that can make all the difference. That can brighten their day. Because a lot of people, you might be lucky where you have a wife and kid and a family, shelter and things of that kind. A lot of people are isolated on their own. Even in today's world, believe it or not, sir, even families are not getting along, right? It's not right. So it's not, and things of that kind, right? Because that's the reality of life. So when people check in, it's a beautiful thing. So I'm glad you remind us about that. And for those of you who are watching and listening, if you can walk away with one thing here, and that's the purpose of what we're doing. If you can check in with somebody, doesn't matter how much you have to eat, doesn't matter if they still have their job going on and so on, there's still that mental stress. Because a lot of people are, they were accustomed to I mean, even myself, I used to be, all over the place to events and activities and all over the place we're going. Right now we are doing things a lot different. So checking in with anybody, especially the ones who you think need it the most, will be key
Definitely,
point.
because you have a lot of vulnerable people today,
Yes,
and
yes.
at the end of it, it's all about you reaching out to them. It's
Hmm.
not going to take a lot out of you because
Hmm.
from the day that you take up the field of being a pilot or being
Hmm.
any leader in
That's right.
society, it is for you to lead, not for you to follow. It is for you to lead. And
Mm.
one of the things that our Sadhguru would have taught us, I'm touching base on our organization here. He says in order to get someone out of the mud, you need to go in the mud as well. You need to get the mud on your skin.
Yeah, you need
Because
to get yourself dirty. That's right.
definitely, because if you don't do that, it's like for instance, you know, you're celebrating so much, and this is something, and it's like we're discussing on Holi
Hmm.
tonight, right? Because it's a beautiful occasion. But then if we don't go in the mix of it, and it's like this chit chat currently,
Hmm.
literally we are in the mud with the people trying to help them to understand
Hmm.
what this occasion is all about from a spiritual perspective or religious perspective, and what it does to us socially as well.
Absolutely.
And so we need as leaders, we need to step forward and try our best to assist each other.
For sure. Awesome. Um, you brought up some very, very interesting piece here. I want you to know that. If there's anything else you like to add, please go ahead and do that. You are a very excellent speaker, by the way, and now I get it why, because you're a very knowledgeable person, and it's always nice to have all of that, because it worked out well. It means that I can get more out of the person, right? Um, if there's anything else you would like to add, feel free to do so. But do know that I appreciate you, and I will definitely, and I'm hoping that you will not turn on my offer. I will need to have you back on, because we are going to have some important, we are doing, and you mentioned some important pieces. I think we have lots in common. You're talking about closing the gap. And that's one of the things we do. If we see a need where we need to close the gap, we try to do, we don't do shortcut. We're not doing things for number of likes and number of shares
Yes.
of that. We are doing things because we want to address a need. And so you will be a fit for so many different areas, because you've been a principal, you've been in the spiritual piece, you've had that experience, you're speaking the social work language too, right? Because you're kind of doing it because it's part of, that you probably have done as well, and so that's awesome. I want you to know that I appreciate you, so much. You've given us some really good insight, more than what I bargained for, more than just the holy explanation thing here. Because the humanity piece, I do enjoy that, because for me, as a person, I see God in everybody, and that's how I try to live, really. So I don't, um, I'm never going to be disappointed if I don't get to drive to go to a particular location to pray and so on, because I try to see God in everything and in everybody. And I think that's what makes a difference for me. So I did not miss that aspect of the of the the physical location for other things and so on. And I think it works out well for me. But right? Because I mean, I'll tell you this. I actually, I've eaten meat before. Like I said to you, we have never been big meat eaters in our home and so on. I'm the only vegetarian, but we don't buy meat, right? We don't cook meat at home. Like my wife, we just cook vegetarian stuff. But if my daughter, I don't stop them from eating. So if she goes somewhere and want to have like a chicken burger and so on, she can have it. Um, but I'll share this quickly with you. I actually, there was a homeless man. Actually, I used to work at a busy downtown here, and there was a homeless man came to me and asked me for a few dollars, or a dollar, something like that. But I didn't give him the dollar. I said to him that let's go for lunch, because he said to me he's going to buy something to eat. And I want to understand more, because as a social worker, my job is to figure out why is it people are in that need. That's what I do for a living, right? So I said, let me have a chit chat with him. You talk about that we have to get dirty, we have to get into the mud too, right? And I said, let's go and have like at, lunch. And so in my head, I was pointing out, and I should have known better too. I'm pointing, like a good restaurant, because I said I have to treat him with dignity too, not because he's a beggar, or at least came to me as a beggar. I'm beggar in different ways too. And he said to me that he's a vegetarian. No, he said to me he's a vegan. And then I kind of listened properly, and I said to myself, like, I'm in a little bit of a better shape, and he's a vegan, so I need to understand this a lot more. So I question him now. And would you believe that that moment changed my life? Since then, I never eat back meat, because I said to myself that maybe God sent that fella to me in a different way, right? I've tried, made attempts many times before, but when but it can be difficult if it's you are the only one, and so on. And I came home and I said to my wife that I'm not going to eat meat anymore. My wife said, like, "What are you talking about? What nonsense?" I come away like, "Who what are you talking about?" Right? But honestly, that was the best decision I've ever made. It was a homeless man. It wasn't for me to stop, to pause and listen to that man, thinking that I'm bigger because I had my tie, I'm at work, and there he is in this, like, not so good looking. That's one of the reasons you never judge a book by its cover.
That's what I think.
Right? And my life has forever changed. I do not miss anything of that. Like, and I do not judge anybody who eat meat and things of that kind, but I'm just sharing my own story here, that you never knows who can influence you. And that's one reason I said to you earlier that I see God in everybody. And if somebody believe in a different religion, different way of worshiping and so on, that does not bother me. The only thing that bothers me, if they're telling me that my way of worship is not good, that's the only thing bothers me.
You know, and that is one of the things with our organization, being a spiritual organization and not a religious one, is that if you're a Hindu, it makes you better Hindu. If you're a Christian, it makes you better Christian.
Mhm.
If you're a Muslim, it makes you better Muslim, whatever your faith may be, because it teaches spirituality. And if I'm to quote, you know, in Hinduism, we says, uh, mandir. Man means mind, there means association. So this pandemic literally allow you to connect your mind more with God, right? You go introvert, you go inside and worship. If I'm to say, okay, from the Christian faith, right? You know, is that you look for God within yourself, right? You look for God within yourself. So if you're looking for God within yourself, and then on the Islam side, it says that God is pure, God is light. That light is what is found within each and every one of us. Now, how do we see that light? Through, again, the divine knowledge of Brahmya, the opening of the third eye. And that is one of the things that our organization, being a spiritual organization, has taught us to connect ourselves with God directly. So it's not a scenario, of religious. There's nothing about religious here. And you see differences and all these things. Because religion in the sense is to bring people together, to reunite people.
Mhm.
And you're not seeing that. You're seeing religion is segregating people, separating them.
Absolutely, it sure does. Millions of people lost their lives because of religion, by the way. And so sometimes it's important to even have a conversation about that. But that's a whole different thing for sure. So I like that idea actually. I mean, anything that brings people together, like I said to you, respecting the differences. We are different. We believe in different things. I think as long as we respect people's differences and choices in life, I think that's important. I'm not comfortable when people um, not are trying to persuade me to something that I don't believe in. I don't like that kind of thing. I want people to respect my choice, because I have full respect, and for people who know me, I'm as open as you can be, a kind of thing, right? Because the way I see it, man, it's just like when you have a destination, there are many ways to get to that destination. You can go by foot, by car. If they're repairing the road, you can still find a way to get there and so on. So I kind of look at it differently. So I have to agree with you, is what I'm trying to say. Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add?
So as probably we're wrapping up, so I'm going to share a beautiful story before I go, or before you wrap
We have,
up.
yeah, we have time. Now you
Okay,
not to worry
okay.
about that. You go ahead. Mhm.
Okay, so as we're again on the topic of Holi, one day there was a fight between the colors. Red, Red says that he is the most powerful one because if you light the fire, it can burn all over. Green, Green says that no, I am more powerful than anyone else. If you look out, you're gonna see all the vegetation. Then blue interject. Blue said, no, 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 I am the most powerful. Look up into the sky and tell me what you see. And white says, no, no, no. Look all around. Look at the space. Look at the heaven. I am the most powerful. And while these arguments were going on, they heard a voice. And that was the voice of God. And God says, none of you are more powerful than each other. And he combined all the colors and he made a beautiful rainbow. And similarly, today when we
Mhm.
celebrate Holi, we celebrate this day, and we talk about diversity, nobody is different. Today you see no difference in anyone. When you see that color, all those powders were
Mhm.
smeared at each other, no one could have picked up any difference. Whatever your race were, whatever your status in society is,
Mhm.
no matter whatever you may be, because you were smeared with that color. And we want to see that color always prevail in our society.
Mhm.
That's what we want to see. And once we can have that, then definitely we can always be that rainbow in each other's life.
Absolutely. A good story there, by the way, a good way to kind of wrap up or to finish off things on your side there. To kind of remind us of that diversity piece, really, the fact that in a sense we are one kind of thing, and we have to learn. It will take some time, but we will have to continue to have these kinds of conversation, because if not, things can slip through the cracks, because people are learning, as you mentioned earlier, people are smarter now than they were 25 years ago. Resources are right at our fingertips. Things have changed. There's no question about that. And so that's awesome. So again, I want you to know that I appreciate you so very much. You're very knowledgeable, my man. I like your style. You took this, seriously. I was very, and again, my intention is never to hurt anybody, but I did put out an invitation inviting people to come and talk about Holi, and nobody took up that offer. I would think that everybody will jump and kind of take that offer, and but anyways, you did accept my offer, and I appreciate that. And this will be a special one because and as I mentioned earlier, this is not a sexy kind of topic. People are not interested, generally speaking, it's to hear and listen to these pieces, but we need to close some gaps here. It's much easier for us to do things differently and so on. It's nice to have fun and so on, but a time and place for everything too, you know what I mean. And so it's nice to have people who at least are willing to kind of have these kinds of chit chat here. We do the entertainment piece as well too. We did an amazing show last night, the diversity inclusion concert. Remind people it wasn't a holy show or anything of that kind. And I know people are doing holy show tonight, and it would look exactly like our show, right? And they will call it a holy show. That is a problem. I have a problem with that, actually, right? But that's a whole different thing. But do know that I appreciate you so very much. I'm now giving you opportunity to say any last minute thing. But one thing I would like you to add, though, I always take the opportunity to ask people. All of us go through challenges in life at different times. Some people more than some. Some people call it karma, whatever we call it. But I mean, each and every one of us, whether that be in our household, whether that be in society, whether that be just whatever, right? Things happens. But despite the fact that we all have had challenges in our lives, there are still things we can look back and be grateful for. What are some of the things you are grateful for in your life?
So, but you know, all right. So basically, being grateful. So there's so many things. I'm not going to say that the road that I would have walked on to be here today has been a smooth one.
Hmm.
It has been one that had a lot of potholes. There has been one with a lot of hurdles on it. But
Mm-hmm.
I recall, and that was the very first time that in my heart, I tell myself that, I thought I can become somebody probably prominent and great in the future. I always recall the first time I sang my first bhajan at the temple. It was a Sunday morning before I wrote Common Entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And the said president of the Mandir at that time, his name Chris Rajaram, and he's the president of our organization currently. When I finished singing that bhajan, I had the bhajan written on a piece of paper in my pocket. And when I sang that bhajan, he said to me, he said, a day is going to come and that I am going to become one of the greatest persons that this Mandir is going to. And that was the Sunday before I wrote Common Enemy. And today, he is one of the individuals that actually helped me or guided me through this path to where I am today, spiritually. Being grateful again, I give all thanks and praise to my parents for bringing me into this world, into this physical world. And I, initially I did not make mention of this, but I'm happily married with a 5-year-old daughter, and they become my world eventually, because today we would have built, our life together. And there's so many things that, over the years I was able to achieve. And and when you look back and make reflections, it gives you great pleasure to know that you would have moved from one to the other. And today you can always say that, what? It's not a scenario that you were born with a ghost in your mouth, but you had to work very hard to achieve whatever you have achieved. So being grateful, being thankful, the bottom line is being thankful for life. That's one. Two, being thankful to my parents to bring me into the world. Being thankful to all the teachers who would have guided me to be here today. Thanks to my wife and my daughter who have been supportive of me balancing a professional life as well as a religious life. And most of the time you're spending serving people. Like, I'm going to share this with you as a joke, but many times my helping people find solutions to their problems and all these things. One day my wife asked me, she said, everybody comes to you with their problems and you help them. Who do you go to? I'm like, all my problems are being solved by God. I go to God because God guides me and He gives me that strength to help others. So being grateful and thankful for the life in general. And it's all about, again, we always learn we are the architect of our own destiny. Nobody else can create or make our destiny. We have to make it ourselves.
Absolutely. Excellent. I'm glad. I'm glad you took the time to share some of the things you're grateful for. It's always nice. You brought up another interesting piece that, you know, good thing doesn't come easy. Like that's the best way to kind of rephrase what you just said there. We have to put in effort. That's one of the reasons why I never understand when people say to me, and they're not bad people. There's so many people said to me. In fact, today people are messaging me and saying, "Right, I'm so bored. There's nothing to do." Right? I'm thinking to myself, this cannot be true. How the heck this is gonna be true? Because I honestly don't have enough time in the day to do the things that I would want to do. Like there's no question about that, right? But that cannot be true for those of you who are watching and will be watching at some point. If you're bored, it, there's an opportunity actually to kind of dig deep into self to figure out what is it that you would like to do in your life, and maybe start to write those stuff down. Because the fella I was speaking with, he told me a list of things that he would like to do, and so I'm thinking now, these are all great things. So maybe now is an opportunity from head to put it on paper now. So this is what you like to do, and maybe start to plan it now. Now is an opportunity. So maybe it needs a little bit of guidance. So I will have to guide him through. But when I hear that, I get extremely disappointed. And you also brought up another interesting point earlier that we as human beings, we tend to make all kinds of excuses. Oh, I'm busy. even the show that I do, I did reach out to a few people. And the very first excuse, oh, I was so busy. Believe me, man, like I have an extremely busy life as well too. So this is, it's not like I have lots of time in my hand. I'm just doing this show for the sake of doing it, you know. But we have to make sure. And I think if people, and for those who are watching, I'm sure our guests will agree with me. If you find that you're running out of time, maybe you have to try to write down how you're spending your time. Maybe that's an important thing, you know, and then you will realize that, you know what, oh, I'm spending 5 hours on Facebook, and maybe I should cut it down to 1 hour. I don't know, just an example. Or I'm right. I'm just
it,
saying, right?
it is so surprising because every time you hear yes, I don't have time, I don't have time, but they has 24 hours, and the 24 hours you're being advised to at least rest for 8 hours, so you still have 16 hours to make up every day. Let's say okay, you work another 8 hours. That's eight. You still have 8 hours to do every other thing.
Oh yes. So that you're right, and so and so that's an area people need to work on. So there's always, I know some, we have deadlines, don't misunderstand us here. We know that there's deadlines, so sometimes we have to kind of finish up certain things. But another problem with that is that a lot of people wait for the last minute to get things done.
True.
Right, so if we know that, okay, we have a deadline on the 28th, some people wait on the 20th to get this damn thing started. It doesn't work like that,
and,
it's,
and, that, and, that, and that is like being in the classroom for all those years. Market SBs and all these things, you always have the kids and okay. Yes, we always procrastinate. Oh, it's the next week, the next month. And then eventually you realize that you know what? Time doesn't wait on no one.
Absolutely. And then not a lot of people can work under stress and pressure. And then you start to get anxiety knowing that, oh my God, I'm going to have to submit this thing or whatever,
Yeah.
at that deadline time and so on. And so that's another thing. So very, very interesting point. So there's a lot of topic, we can discuss because you have a variety of different knowledge. But I would love to have you join us. I'm pretty much sure. Let me check very quickly here because will be talking about this whole Munder situation here. I wonder too, Munder people already reached out to me and said like, what, prompted you to do that? But nothing prompted me actually. There was a gentleman reach out to me and said that this is important and he would like to do it. I will have to check back to make sure, but I will send you an invite. And if you're interested, you have the time. Speaking of time, you, you can, and if you're busy, that's okay too. Just so you know, eh? Yes. All right. So stay there though. Don't go anywhere. I will give you the okay when to leave. But do know that I appreciate so much. You are a blessed soul. There's no question about that. I can feel it. I can sense it. Very knowledgeable person. We need that, and you've really added. And so if a few people, one person, two people, keep in mind this chit chat will always be floating around everywhere, different format, right? For not necessarily social media, but people will be listening on TV and radio. And if we can have a few people, start to make changes so they can better their lives, it means that you and I have done our job. And I have no question that this chit chat here, your time, your knowledge, will make an impact because we always receive email, not necessarily right away, sometimes a few years after. I remember one lady sent us an email and said, Narine, I'm now graduated with a master, and it was all because of you, things like that. Or sometime in our case with our guests, right? So do know that you did not waste your time joining us here. Do know that. I want you to know. Not on this holy day, that for sure. It is.
Yes, and I would also say, uh, I'm very thankful for to be on your platform as well. So because at the end of the day, I was able to share my knowledge, what I would have learned, and in that way, the more I share it, the more I will open my reservoir to learn more as well. So I'm very grateful and thankful to you for having me on, so that at the end of the day, we are all in this together.
Oh, we are all in this together. There's no question about that. You have a good mindset, good thinking, and I love that about you for sure. So you keep that going, keep that smile going, keep that. I'm glad you mentioned about the wife as well too, because my family is watching or will be watching at some point. So it's always a nice thing to kind of really honor those women as well too, because I mean they do so much. They work, they come home, they cook, they clean, they do all of these kinds of things. Here in North America, as you will agree, though, it's not as bad. Certain countries, women do a whole lot more. Right here, at least men are changing. They still change the diaper and they still do all of those things. I do, by the way, have a 90-month-old as well, and things like that. But certain countries, men still think that it's a woman's job. So I'm glad you acknowledge, especially recently we celebrated International Women's Day and so on. So you are on the right track, and it goes to show that knowledge is power. I always say to people, man, you cannot go wrong with knowledge. All the material things that we strive for, the big house, the double garage, everything, those things you can get when you work hard. But knowledge is a different kind of thing. Right, not too many people invest when it comes to that, but for me personally, that's the best investment you can give to yourself, because when you have knowledge, then you can make better choices. I really believe that. Not comparing anybody here, but I think it makes a huge difference, that's for sure. All right, so you stay right there and I will kind of give you the okay when to leave. All right, so my dear fellow listeners and viewers, as we are officially approaching the end of tonight's program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. On behalf of myself and our very knowledgeable guest here tonight, Pandit Dev Ramrattan, both of us would like to join together and wish you a great today and even better tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon. You stay right there. I'll talk to you in a minute.